Guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. This is Joe at Odyssey Off-Road. Got a quick tech tip here for you for the Raptor 700. And I got to say, right off the get-go, big shout out to Cuervo ATV. Indirectly kind of helped me solve a small issue I was having. So, as you guys know, if you follow the channel, if you don't, I just installed the Big 3 on the Raptor. I got the DASA exhaust. I got a EHS Racing tune flashed on the ECU. And I got the air filter adapter kit. And I have a Carolina Quad Concepts airbox cover on it. So I have all videos of that stuff on the channel. Check it out. So the bike was running mint, super strong, flawless, no popping on decel, none of that stuff. I had a small bog at idle, like right off idle, going to take off, let out the clutch, hit the gas, and it would just bog out sometimes, like it was getting too much air or it was too lean. It was like a lean bog. It would just die. Wouldn't do it all the time. It was like real hit and miss, but it felt like it. You felt like it could happen a lot. You know, you had to be a little more aggressive with the throttle, accelerating off from a dead stop. So I was conscious of that after it happened a couple times, and I was like, it kind of bothered me. So I spoke to Eric at EHS Racing. He said, try adjusting your idle. A lot of the times the idle's not set right from the factory. So I checked that. He said, turn it in a little bit, the air idle screw, that may help it go away, and let me know. So I did that to the point where it went away, but when it went away, the idle was just too high. Like you let off the clutch and it was just taking off by itself. So, and I just didn't like it revving that high at idle. So I was like, man, there's got to be something up with it, because the flash is on point. Like the bike was running so good everywhere in the RPM range. Just that off idle bog, something wasn't right. So I was thinking. And I had talked to a few buddies. Ashton C., who's on YouTube, he just installed a Vortec ECU on his Raptor. And Tyrese from 700R Raptor Life, he just installed a Vortec on his Raptor. Different than what I did. I got an ECU flash. But same moral of the story. A lot of times with the newer Raptors, the tuners are finding that the throttle position sensor voltage is not right. It's not set right from the factory. It's set too low. And when they do their tunes, their parameters are based off of like 0.69, 0.70, like a stock setting, a good stock setting. And some of them are coming really low, and you have to kind of adjust, especially when you get a Vortec. A lot of times you got to adjust your throttle position sensor, get that dialed in for the Vortec and the map in the Vortec to work perfectly. So I remember when the bike was completely stock, I had an issue with a hanging idle a lot of times, where I would be riding, come to a stop, and it'd be idling really high, and then I kind of almost have to like blip the throttle, and then it would come down. Like there was just a hanging idle there. Like, and that's a sign of it being lean at idle. I just never thought anything of it. I thought it was a stock bike, so I was like, man, they're really tuning these new ones real lean, So I just figured it's a symptom of it being stock. But I was like, maybe there's something to the whole voltage thing with mine, and maybe that's why it was so lean at idle when it was stock too, and I was having an idling issue, because it seems to be the only issue the bike had running was at idle, even stock. So I was like, well, I'm going to check the throttle position sensor voltage this weekend when I'm off from work. Lo and behold, the other night, Cuervo ATV, who I follow on YouTube, he's always posts great tech tips about Raptors and stuff and tuning. He's just a Raptor 700 guru, that guy. So he posted a video about fixing stalling issue with Raptor 700 and throttle position sensor voltage. So I was like, that's interesting. So I watched it. Basically what he said was, a lot of the newer Raptors have that issue of like a bog right off idle, or you come to a stop, pull the clutch in, come to a stop fast, and it'll die. And that's because the throttle position sensor voltage is coming not set correctly, or just too low. And so his fix was he actually sets them, when he tunes them, to like 0.80 volts, and then maps it from there. And he does that with the power commanders. You set it in that, and then set the throttle position sensor to line up with the minimum setting on your power commander. I don't have a power commander, I have an ECU flash. So the ECU flash is similar with the Vortec. When the tuners set them up, they set them up based on, you know, your TPS being set up right from the factory. If yours isn't, obviously the whole map's going to be affected, but you're really going to notice it down low because that's where you're getting the least amount of fuel. So I said, well, I'm going to check mine for sure now, after seeing that video. So lo and behold, I checked it. You have to back probe it to check it, because you have to leave the plug plugged into your throttle position sensor. Your throttle position sensor, if you don't know which one it is, and if you don't know what you're doing, I don't suggest you do this yourself, but that's your throttle position sensor right there, okay? There's 2 Torx screws that hold it tight. Those are tamper-proof Torx screws. They're tamper-proof for a reason, because if you mess with it and you mess it up, you don't know what you're doing, you could mess up your bike. So I'm not suggesting for anybody to go playing around with this stuff unless you know what you're doing. So what you're going to do, if you know what you're doing, and only do this if you're having an idling issue, or if you're having that issue where it's, you know, like a lean bog, right off idle, or it's stalling, or whatever. Check your voltage. It could be that. I checked mine. Lo and behold, it was like 0.61, fluctuating between 0.61 and 0.62. Very low. So some of the guys suggest, some of the tuners suggest 0.69 is the base that you should set it at, like when they send you a tuned Vortec or something. And so Cuervo was saying he's setting his to 0.8 when he does the power commanders, when he tunes them at a shop and runs the maps off that. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go all the way up that high, obviously. But let me at least bring it up to around 0.7 or something like that. So I brought mine up to a little bit higher. I went to 0.72. I said, let me try it from there. And man, what a difference it made. I just came back from a ride in the desert. I was actually recording this in the desert for a little bit of scenery and sitting in the garage. But it was so freaking hot. It's like 100 degrees today that the camera was overheating. So I reshoot this in the garage for you. So basically what you're going to do, though, is you got to back probe it. So I'll show you how to get to it. Here, hang on. Let me get the seat off. So you have to back probe it. To get to the plug for the sensor, it comes in back here, and you got to get your hand in there. So in order to get to it, I took out this bolt, this clip here, the clips that hold, you know, for this rubber cover. Get that out of the way, and then I moved my master cylinder reservoir over, so I can get my hand in there. And there's a rubber boot that covers the plug, kind of like this. You can just slide it back. So I did that. You'll see 3 wires going into the throttle position sensor. The yellow one is the one you want to back probe. So when I say back probe, basically, if you're going to get a volt tester, right, and you're going to set it to the correct setting so it reads, you know, tenths of a volt, DC, and then you're going to back probe. So it's like a needle probe, and you're going to stick it in the back. If you don't have it, you have to get those. Or you can. Some people will do a paper clip. I don't suggest sticking just anything in there because you could ruin the little seal on the, around the wire that keeps it watertight. So just get the back probe kit, or if you have a back probe needle set, it goes in there. It's like thin like a needle, and it goes in along the wire. You push it in till it hits the metal clip in there, and you can read the voltage. And then you're going to test to ground with the other probe on your voltage meter, and turn the key on, touch it, read the setting, and mine was at 0.6, fluctuating between 0.61 and 0.62. So I loosened the Torx. It's a pain in the neck getting to them, especially the top one because it's right behind the frame. So I actually have the tamper-proof Torx where they're like little bits, and I stuck it in there and I put a wrench on it just to crack it loose. That's the only way I could get it in there. I couldn't get a socket straight in. And then the bottom one's easy to get to. Crack them loose a little bit, and then so turning it actually, I think it was turning it down. Turning it counterclockwise raised the voltage, and turning it the other way lowered the voltage. So it doesn't take much, man. You're not going to be moving this thing hardly anything, like a hair. You're going to move it, and you'll see the voltage start ticking away, moving on your voltage meter if you're checking it while you're doing it. And I got mine to like 0.72, and I said, well, I'll try that and see how it goes. buttoned everything up. I took it out for a rip on the desert. Man, what a difference. I mean, like night and day difference. Zero bog off idle anymore. Runs flawless. I don't have to keep the idle like revving out really high to prevent it from doing that. I got the idle set nice and smooth. It just purrs like a kitten. So yeah, it's crazy because like who would have, my blue Raptor, my 2020, I never had an issue. But apparently it's fairly common with the newer ones. 23 and up have different ECUs and different wire harnesses. And then so that's what they're seeing a lot on, especially on the newer ones. Some of the older ones too. If you're doing a power commander or stuff like that, you probably won't notice it. But if you're doing like a Vortec or an ECU flash and your TPS voltage is not where it should be or high enough, it's not going to run right. So that has to be set. But on the newer ones, the 23 and up, different ECUs and different wire harnesses. So they're seeing that a lot with that bog at idle or stall when you come to a stop, pull the clutch in hard, come to a fast stop. That fixes it. So when you raise the voltage on that, what it's doing is it's richening the entire curve of the map. So that lean bog at idle, so it's richening it at idle, but it's also changing the whole curve because the more throttle you give it, the voltage is higher throughout the whole range now. So just by a little bit, some people think like, well, what's 0.62 to 0.72 going to make a difference? It's a huge difference because think about it. It's 0.62, not 6.2. It's less, it's barely over half a volt we're measuring. So that like one 1/100th of a volt makes a huge difference. You know what I mean? We're not talking complete whole voltage, whole volts here, like 1 volt, 2 volt, 3 volt. We're talking, tenths of a volt. So when you measure that tenth of a volt, 1/10 of a volt is making a big, big difference. So just wanted to point that out. Shout out to Cuervo ATV for making that video. I plan on checking mine anyway, but that really lit a fire under me to think, well, that might be something to do here with mine. And lo and behold, man, fixed it. I mean, it was running mint to begin with. The EHS Racing tune, I can't say enough good things about it. This thing runs like a scolded dog. It's unbelievably fast. And he lowered my fan temp and everything with the flash. But doing that completely cured the idle issue. I wish I would have known that when I got the bike new, that was an issue with some bikes. Because I would have did it stock. That would have eliminated my lean idle, hanging idle I had when the bike was stock, and I ran it 30 hours that way. So who knew, right? But yep, that's it, guys. Just wanted to point that out. Joe at Odyssey Off-Road. Hope this helps somebody. And I'll leave a link to Cuervo's video too in the video description. You guys can check out his. And that's it, man. Catch you guys on the next one.